and you're watching Book Geeks India, which is a channel where I make book related videos. If you like books, if you love reading, make sure you subscribe to my channel and tune into my videos. So guys, in this video I bring to you my July reading wrap up. Now I know it's the end of August and I should be doing this kind of video in the starting of August, but it's better late than never. So here I am sitting before you on the last day of August and talking to you about all the books that I read in the month of July. Now before I start with the video, I want to tell you about some statistics. So I read a total of 16 books in the month of July. 2 out of these were manuscripts which were sent to me by the authors for just an honest feedback, whereas 14 of these were actually published books which were sent to me, by publishers, by authors, and also some of them were bought by me. Now out of these 14 books, 6 of the books were my own choices, were my own purchases. I either got them this month or they were sitting with me from many years or days or months ago, whereas 8 were review copies which were sent to me by publishers and authors. I usually like to maintain a ratio of 70s to 30 or 60s to 40 between the books that I read based on my own choices and based on review copies. But this ratio is a little skewed because, as you know guys, I had taken a long vacation in the month of May and June, and that's the reason I had a lot of review copies pending with me. So to settle things a little bit and take off some burden off me, I actually read a lot of review copies last month. And now I think I've already ranted enough about all these things. Let me just get on with the video. Now before talking about these 14 books that I read in the month of July, I want to tell you that I'll be listing them in my order of preference for these books. So the best book comes first and the worst book comes last. And now without further ado, let's get into the video. So guys, the first book that I read is this one, The Lord of the Rings, Book 1. Which is The Ring Sets Out by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is the best book that I read in the month of July and I absolutely loved it. I have had the series for so long now and I've always wanted to read it, but finally I got a chance in the month of July and I read it. So I'm not going to talk to you about what the series is because it's so huge and so vast that obviously a separate video should be dedicated to it. So I think it is sufficient for you to know that I rated this book 5 stars. The next book that I read, to which I also gave 5 stars, is this one, The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. Now this is a classic book which I picked up last month and it won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in the year 1953. It is actually hailed as one of the best works of Ernest Hemingway and it actually led to him getting a Nobel Prize for Literature in 1954. Now this book tells us the story of a lone old fisherman and a young boy and a giant sea fish, a giant marlin. So it's a beautiful story of poverty, of old age, and it's a tragic little story, but yes, I loved every bit of it and I enjoyed it thoroughly. The third book that I read is this one, The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I picked this book up when I saw it on Instagram and I read about it. So I got to know that this is a YA read, but YA read with a twist. So it tells us the story of this young 17-year-old girl called Star. She's this black student who lives in a black neighborhood, a kind of ghetto, but she goes to a predominantly white school which is very different from her world at home. Now she's able to maintain distance between her school and home and she's able to maintain herself, but her entire world comes crushing down when one day she witnesses the shooting of her friend by a police officer. This is a beautiful book which tells us the story of black people in America, the kind of racism which still exists there, and a lot of history of black people and black movement. So that is the reason I love this book and it's written very well also. The next book that I rated 5 stars is this one, Anon by Bhavani Iyer. It's a beautiful book. It is one piece of Indian literature which you should definitely read if you want to discover some hidden gems. So this is a book which tells us the story of these two people, these two young men, Urvish and Debottam, who both come from different backgrounds, different economic backgrounds, different social backgrounds, yet they have this one thread which binds them together, and that is their love for writing. So how these two gentlemen are shaped by their destinies, how these two gentlemen are shaped by their circumstances, by their upbringing, by their own attitude in life, it is all beautifully pictured and told about in this book. So Anon is set in the Kolkata of 1960s and 1970s and thus it has a vintage charm. I would definitely recommend it to anybody who wants to discover hidden Indian gems. The next book that I read is White Tiger and Other Stories by Ruskin Bond. It is actually compiled by Ruskin Bond. This is a book which I picked up on my Kindle, so I don't have a copy to show you here, but yes, I will put the picture here. So this book is actually a compilation which consists of all kinds of supernatural stories, which talks about jinns, which talk about phantoms, which talk about ghosts and Draculas and things like that. So it's a beautiful collection. I love the variety of it. So what I especially liked about this book is that it talks about so many manifestations of the supernatural, and also that the stories are set in such different parts of the world. So we have a story set in Germany, we have a story set in England, we have a story set in Sindh, in Shimla, and many other parts of India. So if you are a Ruskin Bond fan and if you are a horror story fan, you should definitely get your hands on this one, because this is just an amazing collection. Now when I say amazing, it doesn't mean that it's very scary. It's not that scary, but yes, it is interesting. Definitely entertaining. The next book that I read is this one, You Cannot Have All the Answers and Other Stories by Deepa Agarwal. This was a book which was sent to me by the author, and it's a beautiful book again. I gave it 4 stars. The thing which sets this book apart from other short story collections that I have recently read is that all the stories in this collection are centered around women. Moreover, each story is so beautiful and so different, so unique, and it speaks India. Like every story has this distinct Indian flavor which I loved, which I absolutely loved. So again, if you ask me, I would definitely recommend this book to all lovers of short stories. The next book that I read is this one, They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. So this book basically tells us the story of 2 young guys, Matthew and Rufus, who are both dying on the same day. So there is this different world where they have a service called Deathcast, who calls and tells every person that is dying on the same day about their death. Nobody knows the timing of their death, and nobody knows how they are going to die, except one thing, that they are going to die today. So this is about these 2 people who received this Deathcast call, and now they know that they are going to die on the same day, and now they have a chance to meet one last friend. In the end, it was definitely a dramatic and kind of emotional read, but yes, I liked it, but not that much. The next book that I read is this one, Making a Poem by Vihang A. Nayak. Now this is a collection of poems about poetry. So basically all the poems in this collection talk about poetry, talk about poet, talk about the art of poetry and the struggles of a poet. So I think it's a very different and unique kind of theme to write a poetry book on, and also each and every poem in this book is beautiful. So I rated it 4 stars out of 5. The next book that I read was a Kindle book, so I don't have the copy to show you here. I'll put the picture. And this book is called The Cryptic Key by Seshadri Subramaniam. Now this was another one of my surprise reads. I loved this book. Basically, I loved how, different it turned out to be from my expectations. So the story starts when a guy goes missing, a guy who's a IT engineer goes missing. So when Raghav's wife gets panicky, she calls her brother and tells him to look for Raghav, and then when he seeks out to look for Raghav, he discovers that Raghav is actually participating in a quest. He discovers some mysterious ancient Sanskrit texts which point towards a mysterious city, a city which has remained elusive to humanity for thousands and thousands of years. So all this becomes very interesting and the plot builds up. It definitely has, an Indiana Jones kind of vibe. So it basically has mythology, it has adventure, it has action, and it has thrill. Definitely a lot of thrill. So yes, I loved this book and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read and I also gave 4 stars to was The Awakening of an Indigo by Vikram. So this one is another one of my recent mythological come modern day thrillers. So this book basically tells us the story of a guy called Vikram who has some certain psychic and occult abilities. He's able to understand people and know what is going on in their mind. With the help of a past life regression therapist, he discovers that his life actually has a different purpose and his condition has a name, that of an indigo child. So this is basically Vikram's story and I've already done a review about it. So guys, if you want to know in detail about this book, I will put the review link down below and you can go and check it out for yourself. And I love this book. It is really good. It's the first part in the series, so I am really looking forward to the next part, and that's pretty much it. I gave it 4 stars. The next book that I read is Who Are You Stranger by Shweta Garewal. Now this book tells us the story of a girl, a young woman called Gunj, who decides to quit her job because she is not happy with it, and that is when she decides that she will go to an isolated place in search of happiness, in search of peace. Now she meets a guy called Arav during this vacation, and that is when they kind of fall in love, they develop a chemistry. But as Gunj later realizes, Arav is somebody very different altogether. He's not the guy whom Gunj thought him to be, and he's definitely not the guy who he portrayed himself as. So what is going on? Who is this stranger? So this book was only the first part, and now I'm waiting for the second part to know the suspense behind the story of Gunj and Arav, and especially who is Arav. So I give this book 3 stars because I kind of found a lot of flaws in it. The next book that I read is Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. Now this is a book which I picked up because Becky Albertalli is the famous author of the famous book Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, and I thought it's going to be a fantastic read, but yes, I was hugely disappointed, and that's the reason I gave it only 3 stars. So this book tells us the story of a girl called Molly Peskin Suso, who is 17-year-old. She has a lot of troubles, self-image issues, she's fat, at least she thinks she's fat, she's not that fat. But yes, she has a lot of issues and she thinks she's not pretty, nobody likes her, stuff like that. And this is just a coming of age novel, which, trust me, you must have read a lot of times. So nothing new in this book, and that is the only reason I gave it 3 stars. The next book that I read is this one, Mumblings from the Depth by Jitu B.G. Thomas. Now this is a book which is again a collection of a lot of short stories. Certain stories were really good, certain stories were, let's say, mediocre. This book doesn't follow a particular theme. I mean, they have this huge variety in them. That is what I liked about this book, but overall my impression of this book was not so good. There was something lacking in the stories, so I did not rate it that high. The last book that I read was Thorns of Love by Beena Sunil. Now this book tells us the story of this young Ken-like girl called Eliza who falls in love with her professor James. Now James is actually a womanizer. He likes to play with girls and women and with their feelings, and Eliza gets caught in them. No matter how hard her friends try, she is not able to see the real side of James. So this is basically the story of Eliza and James. I gave this book 2.5 stars because there were a lot of issues with this book. There were a lot of editing mistakes, there were a lot of grammar mistakes, and so on and so forth. So guys, these were the 14 books that I read in the month of July. Do let me know how many books did you read in the month of July, and which were the books that you read in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like. Also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and please do share and comment. Until the next video, which will be pretty soon. Bye!